Today, I'm going to share with you a meeting that I had with a team member talking about how to create AI agents working backward from your processes within your organization. Stay tuned. Based on all of the research, we have the same problem that the customer is coming to us experiencing, whether that's in lead generation or in operations. For example, schedule slippage is a common problem that we're talking about for the construction industry. Everything comes back down to the operations to ownership framework. So the 4 pillars: culture, value, innovation, operations, and setting consistency across the SOPs. Once we have a clear understanding of the SOPs of this is how we get from point A to point B. So if we're talking about lead generation in the landscaping business's case, we're trying to create a process that says, okay, the expected output for lead generation is they're getting a quote and then signing up on a monthly service like lawn mowing. And so what are the steps that need to take place before that? And let's write them out, document them in SOPs. Then we get to the AI workflows or automation workflows. And now we're trying to really understand the quality assurance parameters that we're trying to cover the bases at each step in the SOP so that we can get to the expected output. Does that make sense?
Kind of. Can you re-explain that?
All right. So if the lead comes in through the website and it goes to the email, I need to be able to capture that email and provide a few different areas of understanding to the customer, to the prospect, in order to convert them as a customer.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to make sure that I'm setting these guardrails of like, okay, if they say this, I can only say things within this scope. Okay. So that I'm not super far away from what they're expecting. So once we have these QA parameters defined and we've accomplished error-free automation workflows, then we're trying to take that entire workflow as simple as it can be and then move it into the agentic AI. And this is where we lose a lot of the controls. So that's why we're trying to set the controls early so that we understand how to prompt the agent to be able to solve problems autonomously.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no real way that we can move people from the 4 pillars to agents without touching on workflows. We need to understand how the process flows in of itself.
The AI workflows is the planning that we do, like in Lucidchart, for example, on how the data is flowing, all of that.
Yes, but that's more automation workflows. AI is when we're involving a language learning model layer. And so now we have different types of calls, like we're doing a call request to the ChatGPT or whatever LLM we're trying to hit. And so in this case, we're doing multiple prompts, which is called prompt chaining. And so we're trying to say, okay, if the customer says XYZ, like your first gate is the customer real or is it a cold spam email, right? That's your gate. If it passes, then we can have 2 more or 3 more calls to the same LLM where we're basically saying, okay, if they say this, say that. Or if they say this, grab this context of pricing and send them that, or this website, right? Super simple, but we're creating several prompts in a chain. There's also routing where we're letting the LLM make the call on which pathway to take. And then there is parallelization where it takes all 3 paths at the same time and then makes a best aggregate decision on all of the 3 ways that it went down. Then we have orchestrator workers, which is like it's going to orchestrate which path is. It's basically combining the routing and parallelization. So we have the orchestrator at the beginning and the synthesizer at the end. So you can see here kind of like there's a lot of dependencies. Then we have the evaluator optimizer, which is where the LLM is making a call for a solution, the LLM is calling again for feedback, and it continues to iterate before it's accepted.
Do you know how it determines that it's accepted?
So that would be acceptance criteria within the evaluator prompt.
Okay. So the reject or accept, it is not part of the interaction with the customer or with the user. It is something that is happening in the backend to make sure that it provides the right answer.
Correct. The only interaction with the user in this case is the in and out. I mean, we can assume. So everything that happens in between there is contained within the prompts of the AI workflow. Those are the different pathways. Those are all the different workflows that we can create to integrate artificial intelligence or LLMs within the automation workflows that we've already been developing for our clientele. Now we go to the next step, which is augmented LLM. So this is kind of like a middle layer between the agentic AI and the AI workflows. So we need to make sure that the augmented LLM is responding appropriately to the workflows that we've already created. So it's like a rudimentary agent, because when we create an agent, they are interpreting complex inputs. They're making strategic reasoning, they're making strategic plans, and then they execute autonomously, and the ability to recover from errors. But as we've seen in the news, Apple Intelligence was launched, and then it started hallucinating news stories, and then they retracted the entire deployment of Apple Intelligence. So they're prematurely launching these agents without enough understanding of, hey, this is error-free, boundaries are set, guardrails are put into place, and then we can launch the agent. Everybody's in this race to build the best one. So we need to always come back to the O2O framework to make sure that there's consistency in the way that we're building it. And then when we're mapping the workflow out here, we should be thinking forward to, okay, if an AI agent is running this workflow, will it go in a different direction or use a different tool because it makes the decision to, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the augmented LLM is basically saying, okay, there's an input, the language learning model then retrieves results, retrieves the tools, and retrieves the memory. So now if there's a thread of conversation in an email with the user, with the person requesting a quote for landscaping, it has the entire thread of knowledge, which is what cheat layer does, right? And so it says, okay, they said this, we said that. They said this, we said that. That's the entire context and memory. In the similar case, every time we open up a thread in ChatGPT, that's the memory of that conversation. So the LLM now can take an input and make a decision based on all of these things, right? I'll even add that it's important for us to know at this point what the expected output and QA parameters, quality assurance parameters are, because we want to make sure that they're responding correctly. And we need to know what the sensory input is. For example, if somebody's on the field filming video, we have a video input, right? Mm-hmm. So we have to understand, like, what are all the ways that the AI can understand what's going on here. Then once we've hashed out the issues with the LLM, augmented LLM, then we're trying to build the agent. And so those are like the preliminary steps to building these agents correctly, because now it's going to interact with the environment, take actions, and implement feedback autonomously. And it could run forever without stopping because it has that control. There's no control that we have over the agent at this point. So that's why we want to make sure that the quality assurance parameters are really defined well.
And what is the stop?
When it decides to stop. So it needs to understand the task very well. So if it's like build a website or secure 80% of the leads to convert, it could keep messaging them even if they're like, hey, stop messaging me, it could keep trying to attempt to sell them, you know? Like, when is a good time to quit on a lead, you know? Like, those are all parameters that need to be taken into consideration when we're building these agents.
Going back to the first one that you showed me, the pyramid one. So I want to understand this flow pretty well. So on the bottom, that's like the manual part. Like if we were going to do the task, like how we may do it.
Yeah, and I think this is largely what's missing in some of our automation workflows. And you can kind of position automation workflows like here. It's like, okay, we got some automation workflows already created, but they're not necessarily depending on LLMs. Like, you did build one for the landscaping business, which includes like, is this real or not? You know, and so that is now you've escalated it to an AI workflow as soon as you're making a call to the language learning model.
But even though we didn't train it, right? We're just
right.
ChatGPT for it.
Right. Yeah, because it's trained on a lot of different data.
How do we train the agent? Like how we input the data in the machine, basically?
Well, the agent is going to make calls by itself. If we look at like this workflow as an example, like the input is Google Sheets, and then it's making a request if it's a specific date, and then it goes into OpenAI, into the LLM. So then it's going to come back into this HTTP request and pass it forward to the next one.
So it is constantly learning on itself every time it triggers, basically.
Yeah, unless this is opening up a new thread every time, which I don't think it is. You know, because it needs to store context and memory within itself, which a lot of people are moving to Pinecone in these vector databases to store that context and memory, because the retrieval is better.
So as you can see, the first level that you want to accomplish within your organization is getting all of the processes built in your company. The second thing that you want to do is build automated workflows so that you have string together some sort of flow chart within your organization of all of the processes that are quality controlled, and that way you know how to automate them. Then you want to integrate in an LLM, so you want to integrate this reasoning layer that can work autonomously, and make sure that there's no errors at that stage. And then that's where you're building the AI workflow into place. And then from the AI workflow, now you're testing the LLM to see if it moves into a place where it can leverage tools and memory and context and execute all at once. Is it still prone to errors? And if not, if you've created enough guardrails and enough boundaries that ensure that quality output and that the expected parameters that you're expecting from it to give you, then you can move on to AI agents, which is now you're giving it all of the control to be able to make decisions, to be able to resolve its own errors. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop me a line in the comments today. And we look forward to continuing to help you through Crescio.com. Our mission is actually to help empower the underprivileged, the under-resourced, using these new types of technology, and to level the playing field between the entrepreneurs of today and the IBMs and the big organizations, the big behemoths that have all of the money and the resources to put towards research and development and product creation. But our mission is to really help level the playing field with the entrepreneurs who self-identify as underprivileged. And so we do that through pay what you can consultations. Anything above $1 gets you a consultation, a strategic action plan for how to sustainably grow your business. And we look forward to serving you. So go to go.crescio.com to learn more, and let me know if you have any questions here in the comments.